But if humans did arrive in this part of North America more than 100,000 years earlier than previously thought, then who were they, and how did they get there? This is what a different team of scientists in Oregon hope to answer. They're conducting innovative research that could completely reshape our understanding of how humans migrated across the globe. Their work is focused on a period thousands of years ago when a buildup of thick glacier ice on land caused ocean levels to fall several hundred feet.
The idea is that as the first peoples came either across what would have been an exposed land bridge between Siberia and Alaska, they could have walked across, they could have skirted the edge, they could have theoretically paddled their way along the edge, but they would have come down onto a part of North America that had a large piece of ice on it. This ice is so enormous that it sort of gives them a substantial obstacle. So we're looking at the edges, and there's two competing ideas. One is that people may have been able to come through a gap between the two ice sheets. People may have also been able to paddle themselves along the edge of the Alaskan archipelago down into British Columbia.
Scientists have generally agreed that the Clovis people got here first, following the last ice age. And new evidence pushes this time back at least 1,000 years. But even this might change. Researchers are now looking offshore for evidence that the true first Americans may have walked much earlier on land that is now hidden beneath the sea. It will take good detective science to prove this. Dr. Lauren Davis and his team are combining field research with Geographic Information System Technology, or GIS, to search for ancient human pathways that were once above the current sea level.
We can use some of these emerging technologies that are being developed in other fields, like oceanography, for example, the development of autonomous vehicles that you can load up with equipment that do things like see into the seafloor. And we can make more sense of it, and we can get better refined models for getting better guesses as to where sites could be.
We have more and more powerful computers and more powerful software applications, and we're collecting new types of data all the time.
One of Davis's former graduate students, Alex Nyers, is helping to construct a comprehensive model of the coast from Alaska to the Mexican border that can predict ancient shorelines dating back to the last ice age.
This is the modern Oregon coastline as it is today. And we have over here the way that we project that the landscape was 20,000 years ago. Included in that are our stream networks as our model predicted. And we can zoom in on one feature here. In Newport, we have the Yaquina River. And if we pan over, we can see the modern river here. And then our model predicts where the previous river channel would have been in the paleo landscape. And this is 20,000 years ago. And then we can see where we project that it might have gone based on current bathymetric data.
Bathymetry is the measurement of land that lies beneath bodies of water. Nyers uses these data in the GIS model to locate ancient riverbanks and coastlines where humans likely would have settled.
We need to actually go out and start ground truthing this model, and then using the data that we collect in the future, refine the model down to a point where it's better and better at predicting where people might have been in the landscape.
Davis and his students enter topographic data about the modern coastal region, including the location of current rivers and estuaries, to help build the GIS model. A river that ends at the ocean just might lead to evidence of ancient people far from the current shoreline.
This is the Yaquina River, and it meets the ocean here at Newport, but it hasn't always been that way. In fact, in the past, as sea level was lower, this river would have flowed out 35, 40 extra miles away. We can now take our computer model, where we've reconstructed the course of the Yaquina offshore. We can follow its course with a ship and look for archaeological sites along the banks of this ancient course.
They will use this GIS model to follow the predicted paths of the old offshore river systems in search of any evidence of early human activity. Today, they're on the exploration vessel Nautilus, which has special equipment to explore the bottom of the sea.
It's got really great remotely operated vehicles. One's called the Hercules and the other one's called the Argus. And together these two machines work as a team to give really great views of what's down on the bottom of the seafloor. Being able to take the ROV down and look at it more closely helps us ground truth, as it's called, the patterns that we see on the screen in relation to how they are in reality. Once we get down on the bottom of the seafloor with an ROV, we may see things that look like rough patterns in the geophysical data. It could be places where there's gas, for example, seeping out of the seafloor. It could also be a pile of shells from someone creating an archaeological site in the past. We won't really know until we get down there and look at it.
Once a promising site is identified, the scientists will return to collect core samples from the seafloor. The cores might reveal material left behind by ancient humans. They know this is possible because the same kind of evidence they're looking for offshore can be found on dry land left by humans just a few thousand years ago.
The work we do on land gives us this perspective of what archaeological sites might look like offshore. So here behind me, you can see a shell midden. This is a layer of shell left behind by people just a few thousand years ago because the ocean was pretty much at this position. Now imagine the sea level being so much lower. We follow one of these streams out on the edge of where the river meets the water of the ocean, and that's where people would be collecting shells. And if we can just trace out some of these rivers out to the west, what we'll do is look for places where they're doing this kind of activity. And as we put a core into the seafloor, this is what we might expect to see.